All right, guys, just check everybody can hear me okay. I've got the live chat on this side as well, so you can join in chat-wise. And obviously my giant mic. It was funny, Carlos was up here the other day and mentioned the microphone wasn't really that big, but then he's seen it on the table and realised it is. The good thing about these Yeti mics, by the way, is you can have a two-way conversation or three-way, no problem, because the thing's huge and it does pick up the sound really well. And you know, when you watch some of these videos where you have people making the sounds of food they're eating, that's this. A lot of the time, it's the mic they're using because it does pick up sound really well. So, how's my Spanish going? I've got to admit, my vocabulary is up to 1,425 words, and my sentence structure. I'm actually changing the format of what I'm doing. One of the things I've noticed is a lot of the training is actually wrong, you know, in the sense of like you can, you know, yourself, when you go to school and learn a language, they don't actually teach you a language. They teach you a dictionary, which is fairly useless when you get into conversations. Glenn Roberts, second time lucky, Matt. Hi, good to see you. Yeah, because we've been trying to get on there before, but I just thought today I'm going to do one. Done one for a while. You can see I'm looking a bit rough today. I've been trying to focus on some new ideas, but I'll cover the language first, then I'll move through different things. So the language stuff, I'm going to give you some of my recommendations. The first one is I do find Duolingo is okay for some vocabulary. It's not a fantastic piece of software, but you will find it's free and you'll get through a lot of it quite easily. It can be a bit boring, but that's the problem with vocabulary, like flashcards. They go, what's the word? What's the word? But a lot of time as a kid, that's often how we learned. So Duolingo is a bit like that. Memrise is the more complex version of that, in the sense that Memrise has video recordings with whole sentences in there. Now that works really well. And I would say you don't need both. You can use one or the other. But personally, I would say Memrise is better than Duolingo. But if you're on the train, Duolingo is easier to do because you can read it and whatever, and it's easier to understand. With Memrise, and if you know this from the Spanish lessons on there, there's a guy on there that sort of talks like this. The volume's low, and it just is a flow of a mumble. Now, if you're on the train, you'll really struggle to understand what he's saying, especially when you're trying to answer the questions on what did he just say. But beyond that, it's pretty good, and you can do a lot of moving around with the sentences to learn them. But where it sort of falls down, I think they're working on at the moment, is actually sentence structure. Because they've started adding this new bit, which is for they call it a grammar bot, which is basically like a SMS messenger type chat where you're actually trying to reply in Spanish and stuff, which is good, but it's a long way off from where it needs to be. Where I find it sort of lets us down is it doesn't really go into the sentence structures enough. In the sense of you'll get phrases like what should we do today, or what do you think, where do you think we should go this afternoon? And the thing is, you don't really get the structure of the start of the sentences because it hasn't really got into the breakdown of HAY and HA and things like that I have, and there's a lot of the structure missing, but it'll just start using them. Now, don't get me wrong, once you start getting to a certain point, then that will become more useful later anyway. So once you actually understand that structure, it becomes much easier to learn the sentences. So what I'm saying is Memrise has a lot of use in there. And like I said, I've learned about nearly 1,500 words in there, and I have kept most of the vocabulary on there. So I don't really grumble on that. Where it's let me down is that the sentence structures and sentences aren't predominantly things I would use on a daily basis. It's not like ordering a cup of coffee, or use like, what do we call it? Like quantities, isn't it? Quanta cuesta, isn't it? Yeah, so like quanta cuesta, they use things like that. How much is this? But it's not sort of expansive enough on that. It could do with entire sections just on this. You know, it sort of goes round like the numbers, where it puts more emphasis on the numbers in the breakdowns of monetary values. But it's not a bad piece of software, and I do think it's worth the €25 for the first year because you'll get a lot of use out of it. So Duolingo, I say, is good. Somebody on here actually put me on to Paul Noble. See, my mouth gets all messed up with the different tones of different languages. Paul Noble, where his Spanish learning teaching is very, very good, and I've started to go through there, and I can already see it's filling in some of the gaps. So one of the things I would recommend is Paul Noble for learning the sentence structures and phrases, and you can use Memrise for vocabulary and then go back to it for more sentences as well. So those are the two things I would say are very, very useful. Another one, if you're going on holiday or something, is the Lonely Planet Guide, which is focused on specific sentences which you're more likely to use. But obviously you can sit there with Google and work out what your sentences are going to be, and save yourself buying an entire book. But the point being is it can be quite useful in that sort of stuff as well. So I do recommend these things. And I would say with those three, you can pretty much do most of the stuff in Spanish. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention today, which is multi-level in the sense that you have the ability to improve your Spanish, but you have somebody also pushing you in the right direction. It's a language group that I was put onto by one of the people that set it up on Facebook. Now, within 10 minutes, I had 3 people wanting to trade English for Spanish. Well, Spanish for English. So the point being is I got 3 people. They are interested. They're keen. There's a woman from Mexico, for example. I'm trading my English for her Spanish, and she's actually learning to be an English teacher. So we're going over the verbs to be and structure of sentences in English, and in return she's helping with my Spanish because there's a lot of things that I haven't really picked up from the apps themselves, and I do recommend, if you can, finding a Spaniard to sit and bug every day, because that's the fastest way of learning Spanish. Johnny Fanta, I found when I was starting to learn Spanish, Lightseed Spanish on YouTube were excellent on YouTube, between them and Anki cards. Yeah, you're the same as me, Johnny. You tried everything. And this is what I'm sort of sharing it, because obviously people have seen me struggling with the Spanish on here. And that's the thing. Glenn Roberts, hamburguesa con queso, por favor. I'm not cooking today. In the future. That's another thing we were chatting about yesterday. We had some friends over. We were talking about doing a food truck or looking at another restaurant. So we are actually looking at that, but it's going to take a bit of time to set up, because it's not something I want to rush into, but also it's the wrong time of year now, because obviously we're coming out the tourist season instead of going into it. So if you're setting up, you really want to hammer that tourist season hard. It's just, you want your marketing and everything done just before it starts, so that you're already on the internet, everybody's got your menu, everybody knows where you are, everybody knows all your promotions, everything is done before the door even opens, so that you can actually just get a running start. So that's the thing. You just need to, with that sort of stuff, you've got to get a running start, and that's one of the things I will say. I don't really have much negative stuff to say about the experience with the restaurant. The guy does his own thing, but it was a good experience for us, because April got some good experience in a commercial kitchen. We got to deal with the suppliers, so we got some good suppliers out of it, and also we've got to experience some of the costs and where we need to find some ways to retract some of the excessive spending that can occur, not just in Spain. I've seen it in other places. I mean, a bit like the UK when they decide to refurb your pub and charge you £56 a square metre that they stick on the lease for your carpet. So the point being is, it's the world over, but you just got to recognise where people are going to try and fleece you and where other people are going to try and help you. And that's some of the things we got out of it. So I've got no, what would you call it? No malice or anything against the guy on there. But it was just an experience. But moving forward from that, so yeah, I do recommend for the Spanish, the what do you call Duolingo for free. Memorize, paying for it, and there's a lot of stuff in there. But like I said, you will find you get a bit frustrated because you're not getting that conversational bit. But if you can find a Spaniard and just kidnap them for 6 months, you'll be fine, as long as they don't find out where you got him from. But the thing is, they do the conversational thing is more important than everything else. You'll find it much faster. Yeah, hi Dan. Yeah, having a Spanish wife with her family not speaking any English helps. All the best, Matt. I agree totally. Yeah, that's one big advantage some guys have got, is when everybody doesn't speak in English, because you're forced to do it. I was talking to Steve yesterday over in Poland, and one of the ways he picked up Polish is with somebody who doesn't speak English, because it sort of forces it. You've got no easy, what's the answer? You've got to sit there and stare at each other and work it out, but eventually you'll get there. Johnny Fanta, it takes a lot of work. There's not a shortcut, but will come in time. Now I can speak comfortably with any Spanish speaker and use the DELE exams as a target. It's not easy. No, well, the thing I find which frustrates me is a lot of it's not logical. I know I may offend some Spaniards actually saying that, but when I look at some of the words and the structures, it's very hard to understand where some of them have come from. And then you'll get something that's just an assumed. They'll just assume that's what they're talking about. When you say somebody's name and then go mau leche, you might get somebody say they're bad milk, which is they're a bad person. But you also hear about people defecating on things. I defecate on your milk and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, what are you talking about? But the thing is, although these phrases come out, I don't think they're as aggressive as they sound in English. I think it's more a case of, it's just a lot of time just taken as, it's not supposed to cause offense, but it can sound quite offensive. But yeah, that's the frustration. One of the other things I have noticed a lot is I might have to buy some new T-shirts, because you probably guessed I'm actually losing weight still. And the problem I get is my shirts look like I borrowed them all, because everything's now really baggy. So I think I might have to get a new wardrobe at some point. But yeah, the Exanti diet does work. And what's that stuff you put me on now? There's a new April's added some water stuff. She's not listening to me. Sorry? What's the water you're doing now? Water? Yeah, the water you put in the jug.
It's chia seeds and slices of lemon.
What seeds?
Chia, CHIA.
What are they from?
Right?
What's a chia?
It's a type of seed. Just let them.
Okay. Yeah, so she's put in some
weight loss.
Yeah, lemon and chia seeds for weight loss. But she's always putting stuff in my things. I end up with weird stuff in coffee and stuff, and I'm like, what?
They look like poppy seeds, but you submerge them in water and it makes
looks like frog spawn.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what yeah, it looks like frog spawn.
Yes, that's
but
the best description.
Yeah, but it doesn't taste too bad, especially with the lemon in it. But that sort of stuff helps. So yeah, I'm still doing the weight stuff. Although obviously with this is one of the problems I get with work is when I start doing work, everything else just falls to one side. So we're doing the bar stuff. A lot of the health stuff sort of got put on pause because I was burning a lot of calories being up early till late at night. So, but now I'm back into a bit of a routine. Now I've been looking at other avenues as well for revenue streams. Now the Torrevieja services is sort of very slowly. We've had a few people ask for inquiries, and we've had a couple of people, like we're managing one Airbnb at the moment, but somebody else is on about us taking another one over. But it's a slowly but surely thing. But at the same time, I expect it to take time. It's not going to be quick and easy. And I've got a couple of friends talking to about the air conditioning stuff. Air conditioning is extremely busy. We've had a lot of inquiries around air conditioning, but a lot of people don't want to spend any money if they can help it. And it's quite frustrating, you know, because I'll ask, oh, which one is it? What's this? What's that? What's that? Oh, how much do you charge for install? And the installation prices are pretty standard around the area, unless you're getting it not to the same level of quality, which is why I see in Facebook, you know, people going, oh, my air conditioning's leaking water everywhere, or it's not working as well. They only installed it 6 weeks ago and stuff, because they're not cleaning the pipes properly. They're not putting these hoses in properly. This is a problem here in Spain. You'll find in a few places like this. That is supposed to be inside the wall, but the actual pipe inside the wall is not there. And when we had the apartment underneath, this is what happened. They installed it, and then the water just flooded downstairs because it's supposed to go into a pipe that sort of takes it into the waste system and takes it away. But instead, it just flooded downstairs and blew all the electrics. Now, you'll see around a lot of properties like this, and they shouldn't be like it, but this is the sort of standard you're working with sometimes on the construction, especially on older properties. So just be aware of that. You know, if you've got an installation of air conditioning and it's looking a bit ropey, might be worth checking out how they've set it up. And the other thing is, when they do the regasses and the changes, a lot of the older ones here are R22, which is the old gas, and you can't buy R22 anymore. But the point being is, you're getting regasses without actually cleaning the pipework and stuff. There's a whole ream of other bits and pieces behind it, which is why some people could do it a lot cheaper, because they're not doing a proper job, and they're obviously not recovering the gas as well, was another thing. But yeah, so it'll take time, but I suppose I'm going to have to sit and set up another channel going through all the different things on what to look for in air conditioning, what to look when somebody's installing it, what to look at that should be there. You know, for example, I mean, it's been pretty standard practice for a long time to actually have isolators next to the outdoor units. But in Spain, you don't see them very often. But also the way things are wired up is often a bit ropey as well. But anyway, enough about air conditioning for today. So I've been looking at that. The website's sort of growing, and I've started adding the NIE stuff and that on there. Reminds me, we've got to look at the car registration this week. Car registration, I sent you the forms already. You're waiting. Yeah, because it was busy at the weekend. Okay. Yeah, so we're doing something around the car registration. Am I licensed and insured? My installers are. Because what we're actually doing is actually managing people at the minute. I'm not actually doing any installations myself. I set the standards of what we're actually doing. So the point being is, everything is done in a methodical way, and basically it's just a managed project. So it's to cut down on a lot of the problems people are having, because we see them on a regular basis here. So I hope that answers your question. Now, yeah, what was I going to say a minute ago? Oh yeah, the car registration stuff we're sorting out for somebody at the moment. Just need some details on that, because once that's set up, that's another string to the bow. Johnny Fanta, is there any tapas tours around La Mata or Torrevieja that are very popular in the cities in Spain? The problem I get on the coast, I'll be pretty blunt, a lot of the food quality is not fantastic. It's often very bargain basement, but there's a lot of good restaurants around if you know where to find them. So there are some tapas tours, but not to the extent you'd get somewhere in Barcelona, Madrid, or Valencia. Because they don't have the density. But there is some good ones around, and the local government actually runs sometimes during the year as well to promote it. But I do find some of the quality is more geared up for mass rather than quality. I'll just leave it at that. Proud, brave one. Perfect. Can you get a crew to set up a laundry? The big problem I have, I'll be blunt with this, is the cost of units here in Spain, where we are. A lot of them are way overpriced. Because one of the things with the food truck is I would like to get a location where the food truck is basically a permanent entity there, and then having a garden centre and other bits and pieces at the same place. So if we got to that point, then putting a laundry on there wouldn't be an issue at all, because we could, because obviously you'd only need a double lockup unit, and you could have a full-blown laundry. Wouldn't be a problem at all to do that. So this is the sort of stuff that been brainstormed the last few days with different people about moving forward with the ideas, and because a lot of it does not need to be based in La Mata, because La Mata is fairly condensed. There isn't a lot of commercial units here. There's a few empty ones, but they wouldn't really be successful. Like opening a laundry here would not be successful. It'd be reliant on the business coming from multiple places, which would be more likely to be successful if it was nearer the main road, so it's easier to get vehicles in and out, etc. Because another thing to be aware of when you're setting up business in Spain is neighbours can be a pain in the backside. A few people I know have had problems from neighbours, and the Guardia seem to support them more than the businesses. So you get people complain about noise. You get people complain that your seats are too far out the front. You get people complain about anything they can. Yet they'll sit in somewhere else that they like to sit, and it's perfectly fine. But because you're near where they live, it's the whole windmill scenario. Everybody wants wind turbines, but just not where they live. So it's one of those frustrating things I do find in Spain, where I'm more in the mindset, if I lived above a bar, I wouldn't complain about it because the bar was there before me. It's just, maybe I use a bit of common sense a lot more than some of the people complain. I mean, there was a funny one, was it about 2 years ago, wasn't it, about somebody was complaining they couldn't get their baby to sleep in the plaza. In the town centre, where they have all the concerts and everything. Every year, and events throughout the year, they were complaining they couldn't get their child to sleep because there was loud music after. It was only about 9 o'clock or something, wasn't it? It wasn't even late. 11 o'clock.
The events here doesn't take place until past.
Yeah, well, they don't get going. Yeah. So the point being is they were complaining that they couldn't get their baby to sleep, yet they'd bought an apartment on the plaza. Absolute madness. So you do get that sort of stuff, and it's the sort of stuff that frustrates me a little bit, because you're sitting there going, you know what, just chill out or move house. It's like when I had the problems down at the place we were staying down in, say, last Siesta, wasn't it? Last Siesta, where our old place was. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, when a pair of drunk neighbours, we got another neighbour that was banging furniture at silly o'clock in the morning. We've got neighbours over the road that like to party. I didn't sit there and say that, they all need to change. We just moved, because quite simply they'd all been there a long time. And although you get the other neighbours going, did you hear them downstairs last night banging around and fighting after they got drunk? You're like, yeah. But beyond that, they've been there like that probably about 30, 40 years. So you just got to take some of this stuff with a pinch of salt. But I do find some people just don't. Yeah, it's a bit frustrating. So, I mean, some of the stuff I've been looking at, just for those that are interested, there is a Lamata Map group, which I'm gonna have to change the title of that to somewhere else. But basically, it's to try and get people heading in the right direction. And I was talking to somebody about forex trading yesterday, but also I've been looking at selling all my photography, because I've got about 100,000 photos, so at least 5,000 of them will be something worth of selling. And I've also been looking at the Amazon store, which I've now added to the bottom of my videos now. I've also got a t-shirt store, and if anybody's got any ideas for t-shirts, let me know. Or if you've actually got a t-shirt printing, because I do think doing some t-shirts around La Mata, Alicante, Torrevieja, there's a market for it. Oh, Glenn Roberts. I was trying to get away from anybody mentioning him today, you know. Glenn Roberts, I hope our new Prime Minister Boris Johnson builds a new airport near me. I'm not even getting on to Boris today. I've seen all this stuff on Facebook feeds. There seems to be a lot of swearing going on. But yeah, I'm not touching that with the barge pole today. I'll just leave Boris to it. We'll see what he does. And I know somebody's going to mention the other B word, the Brexit. I think they'll still just lead up to a general election at some point before anything really happens. That's my personal view, but we'll wait and see. But politics, different day. Has anybody got any questions, by the way? Yeah, so I'm designing t-shirts. I'll just keep nattering on. If you've got any questions, just put it in the side there. So I've been looking at stuff online as well. I know Carlos picked up some work this week, so I'm happy for him. Johnny Fanta, it's brilliant. I love the entertainment that Boris and Brexit is giving. Yes. But yeah, I've been looking at online at different things, doing some affiliate programs and stuff, looking at different items. One of the things that we haven't got it here is we bought an air fryer that we were going to test run at the restaurant, because we thought we'll try it at the restaurant and see if it was any good. And then if people, you know, if it was good, then we'll actually use it there. But one of the things I want to say, and it's not a market employee, is just that it works really well. Because we used it for, what we used in there, because we bought loads of chicken and stuff, didn't we, just to try it?
Chicken and chips.
Yeah, try chicken. Yeah, chicken. What type of chicken did we do? Southern fried chicken. Did we do any chicken wings?
Yeah, and also like just normal roast chicken.
Roast chicken as well, and different types of chips. So, but the thing is, the air fryer uses a very small amount of oil. Although I haven't used it myself, April's used it. I've just done the testing on the eating of the food. And one of the things I do like, because one of the things I do find sometimes with chicken is it gets full of fat, doesn't it? The grease, you know, the oil. Because that doesn't have a lot of oil in it. Yeah.
Yeah, but the air fryer is just basically like a convection oven, you know, like furnace.
Yeah.
But it's just like more compact, and you know, you don't get the entire house smelling, and you know, lesser heat emitted.
Yeah, but the thing is, it wasn't that oily. That's what I'm saying. The chicken was crispy and not oily.
Yes.
But also, you know, as April said, you don't get any of the fumes off it, and you don't get a heat build up. It's sort of fan assisted inside. I haven't even looked at an air fryer before. You see. Connor W. Are there many newish condo complexes around 80,000 mark that you know of? In this area, you'd be looking at a studio flat for that sort of money. You're talking in that as an absolute minimum. They're often a lot more than that for a new build. I think, about 80,000. You might get one in Torrevieja. I'm sure Igor come across some. They even had some in-house financing as well, which was useful. Because they as long as you paid, I think if you paid the taxes on it and the you paid the taxes and paid the agents fees, then you could pretty much move in there because they were built by the bank. I've covered this before. The bank have got less to lose because quite simply they're not paying it. It's not like they bought somebody else's house at say 100,000. If they built it themselves, it might have only cost them 50,000 in total. So the point is they're already in a win-win. But yeah, I'm sure there was some around Torrevieja because we were having a conversation with Igor about this a while back. So the thing with this is, funny enough, I was talking to Carlos yesterday about it because he was looking at some apartments up in Gran Alicante, and he was saying about the person he went with because they're actually one of the main developers. And I was saying that we should actually try and work with them because I'd like to do more on the new builds rather than the old, simply because I find it more interesting going through new technology and stuff. And, they've got smart homes, but also if they're doing some low, mid-range or whatever, it's nice to go over and see what you're getting for your money, because you don't really want to go through these 3D drawings and stuff online because the off-plan type things, because it doesn't really give you a true perception of the actual buildings. But it'd be nice to go walk around and say, okay, well, if you've got kids, the school's over there, hospital's down that way, about 2 kilometers. There's a sports and recreational facility this way, and airport's 20 minutes, and actually go through where the physical locations are, because a lot of them have the wrong names in my view. When you get places that in Spanish, which would be in English, sea view, and it doesn't have one, or La Playa something, La Playa is the beach in Spanish, and it's nowhere near the beach. You will find these things quite common in Spain. And I would like to actually be able to go and say, well, that, even if it's called the beach and it's not near the beach, at least you can see what facilities are there. And actually not just, real estate agents wants to home in on the house, but a lot of the time you want the house. Where's the school? Where's the restaurants? Where's the local doctors, supermarkets, all that sort of stuff, and actually just covering it all. So that is something I'm going to speak to someone about this week. And also we do that, we can actually get some gauges on the new build prices as well. The funny one off here in La Mata, they built the brand new ones there and just stuck a telephone number on it. They're not even at the show home, which I find complete madness. It's the tourist season. You've got thousands of people on the beachfront, and they haven't even bothered to open it for people coming in. But I think those apartments are probably about 200k. But at the same time, you're probably sitting on about €1 million there, and don't even bother opening the front door. It's the same as dealing with some of the estate agents when you ask for an inquiry. You can wait a couple of months for a response. Connor W. Yeah, no worries. You're welcome. I'm looking at getting a condo style in Spain, selling up in Thailand. The place is too expensive now. I would say Spain is going to be the same price roughly for a long time. The reason being is, although there's an influx of people coming in from Scandinavia and other parts of Europe, the Brexit is sort of helped stall it again, because obviously that inconsistency has not really affected the prices, because the prices didn't really move that much in the first place. But what you have got is there's a bit of stagnation. I mean, the prices, although you'll hear people say, oh, we sold a lot more houses this year, they don't ever tell you the percentage people have had to drop on average. Because I know nearly every house I know that's been sold have had to knock at least €10,000 off the selling price. Now, that doesn't go in to the information when you're actually buying a house. You go, oh, well, we sold 20,000 houses in this area. But there's no mention of the prices that they were sold for in that context. If you look at the newspapers, you'll see it doesn't actually give you the true figures. Stuart, hi from Scotland. Hey, how's it going? Good to see you. How's Scotland? I hear there's a heat wave in the UK at the moment. Is this true or just a vicious rumour? Has anybody else got any questions, by the way, as well? Yeah, Glenn Roberts, whereabouts do you live anyway? For Boris to be putting his airport near you. 30 degrees centigrade in Kent today. Yeah, that's nice. I was talking to somebody in London earlier. They said it's about 26 in London. So 30 in Kent's nice. It's nothing to grumble about. I don't know what temperature. I think in this room at the moment it's about 26. Stay over. Stuart says he stays over in the meadows. Very warm. Yeah, it's yeah, it's a nice part of the world, Scotland. I mean, I was up there for RBS up at Gogarburn a while back. But it's nice hopping around because I was going to the different facility sites. So I was going over to the mortgage centres and stuff. So I was in Dundee and up and down the coast, all over the place. But it was nice to go there. Surprising how much historical stuff is still in Scotland. You know, in the sense of it's still there and it still looks in good condition. So one of the things I don't like in Spain is the graffiti on a lot of stuff. They shouldn't be graffitiing on. There seems to be some sort of disconnect between history and a spray can. Connor W, did you used to live in the Philippines? Yeah, I was in the Philippines for 8 years. Yeah, I was in Cebu. Used to live in Cebu City. Well, not in the city. It's in Mindanao, which is probably about 40 minutes south of Cebu City. Stuart, it's packed with tourists. Here? Yes, it is. Parking here, it's a bit of a lottery. But, you know, some days you think, you know what, I'm going to walk it simply because I don't want to try and find a parking space when I come back. That's what they should do to encourage people to use cars less. Give them more cars because then there's nowhere to park it, so then you don't use it. The solution to the problem. But yeah, there's a lot of tourists here at the minute. I mean, we've had some funny stuff happen recently as well with one of the. So we had a phone call yesterday where somebody had locked themselves on the balcony. Phoned us up because everyone else didn't have their telephone, so they phoned us to go and let them out because their family had gone off to the beach. The meadows is full of tourists, cyclists. Yeah, we don't really see too much here unless it's the big Spanish race. What's the Spanish race called? April knows that one. The big Spanish race that comes through Torrevieja. The Villiers, a bit like Tour de France. It begins with V, doesn't it? Cycle race.
Oh, well.
The Vuelta, that's it. Yeah, because when that comes through, you get a sudden rush of a few hundred cyclists going through in one go, which is quite nice. But yeah, we don't really get that. I mean, where we are, it's predominantly people with electric bikes. I mean, it's like today we're sort of getting held up by two people that are just chilled out, cycling along about 5 miles an hour, two abreast, just looking at the shops and stuff. That's the sort of pace we have here in La Mata. But I won't mention double parking because that's one of the things that does frustrates me here because people double park on both sides of the road to go at the pharmacy. It seems to be the bottleneck of La Mata is when there's medical day, they're all going in. They don't. I mean, I'm not being funny, but a lot of these people don't need to drive to the pharmacy, but they do. And then they just park right outside it. Connor W, what made you choose that area of Spain after living in Asia? That's the struggle I'm having choosing an area. For me, I came out here for a bank holiday and I stayed at a friend of mine's place. He's sold it now. He had a nice 5-bedroom villa here. So he took me around to different areas because we were looking at some businesses back then as well related to wholesale stuff. But we had a look around and I could just see that the area just seemed nice for a family. Because for me, La Mata, a lot of people say it's too quiet in the winter, to this, blah, blah. But the thing is, because it's quiet, is once the holiday season's over, there's no problems with parking. We don't really have any crime. There's always events going on as well. The people that are here all year round are pretty friendly. The school's very good, and it's nearby. There's 2 good hospitals. Did Torrevieja win the award this year for the best hospital in the world, or the runner-up? I think joint second. Yeah, it's in the top 3 in Europe, if not the world. And so you got a good private hospital, a good public hospital, a lot of natural stuff. You know, we've got the nature park behind us, and then we've got the beach in front of us, and we've got 2 good airports. 45. Well, no, they moved the other one, didn't they? It's over an hour now. Yeah, so Alicante Airport's about 45 minutes. But also it's got reasonable parking in the sense that you can get a annual pass there with a shuttle. So you can park your car at the airport, which it's not at the airport. There's a video on it already. But you can park your car, and then they shuttle you to the airport, and then they'll drop you back at your car. And that's about €250 a year, which I think is quite reasonable, considering that's with 6 car washes and stuff as well. So for me, you can get cheap Ryanair flights into the UK, easy access to the airport. Also, it's not too bad to drive, because I know Brian and his wife drive, don't they? There's a couple of other people drive from the UK. So there's a few reasons that make it a good place to be. But also you've got to remember, it's not just Spain itself, because you've got Portugal that's nearby. But I've had a couple of people say that the price of Portugal, cost of living's gone through the roof. And then you've got Gibraltar as well, don't you? And there's a few other places around, you know, there's easy access to other parts of Europe. So those are a few reasons. What's the prices roughly in La Mata, studio, 1-bedroom or 2-bed apartments? Now, I'll talk from stuff that's 80s onwards, because I think the first sort of new builds here were 1979. So we talk from then until up to before 7 years ago, because the newest builds are over there, which are the new sort of high rises. They're a lot more money. But you would be looking for a studio apartment and a 1-bed, somewhere between 40 and 50,000. You might get I was actually talking to somebody recently. You'll get a 1-bedroom for about 54,000, but you should be able to get them down at 50k, because that's fun. So there's some flexibility in there. So, but for a studio, anywhere from about 38 upwards. 2-bedroom, I would say from about 67,000 to about 80. 2-bedroom apartments in La Mata. Yeah, all right.
It depends, you know, like.
That's some say, yeah, but you start at 67, between 67 and 75. Yeah, 67 to 80 for a 2-bed. And then if you get something that's nearer the front, the prices can go up, but not always, because the concrete over steel ones here, there's some that are facing into like a small courtyard. There were some in there for just over 70,000 for a 2-bed. So yeah, there's your pricing, and that's one of the reasons we live in La Mata is, and if you go to Torrevieja, it's cheaper. La Mata's more expensive. La Mata's like a village. It's like a village more than a town, although it's part of Torrevieja somehow. Don't know how, but it sort of is. But I suppose it's because it used to be a fishing village, La Mata, yonder moons ago. But the thing is, with Torrevieja, it's a very different place, and that's one of the things I will say is, if you look at La Mata and Torrevieja, I wouldn't put them in the same category, because Torrevieja is more You know, with downtown Torrevieja, some of the areas are not very good, and out of the town, there's a lot of developments. So you can get well, maybe a villa at a push for about 80,000 upwards. I think you get a bungalow for about 80,000-90,000, maybe less than that, actually. If you go to San Luis, I mean, San Luis, you'll find are a bit cheaper because it's a bit further out. But yeah, they're very different areas. That's the thing, when you're looking here, you've got to really scrutinize where you're going to live and why you want to live there. For example, Quesada is a bit further that way by about 20 minutes. It's a bit more inland, but it's got a lot of Brits up there. And the prices up there are fairly buoyant as well. How much is the one next door to Peter? 60. And that 2-bed or one? Yeah, there you go. Quesada, 67,000 for a 2-bedroom apartment on the first floor.
That is like the boundary to depending how far in Quesada.
Yeah, but don't be specific. A lot of people don't know where we're talking about. We just call it Quesada because it's just right on the edge of it. But yeah, I mean, there you've got a 2-bedroom, so it's a duplex. You've got 4 apartments with a shared stairway up the middle, and the 2 have got their own entrances. This one up here is 67,000. Stuart, do you like doing the restaurant work? Would you do that? I did restaurant stuff years ago. I used to have what was a wimpy restaurant. I was the manager of a wimpy restaurant at 2021. I had 26 staff back then. Yeah, I do like cooking, but my wife takes everything over when it's kitchen related. She beats me up and throws me out of the kitchen. But yeah, I like cooking. And it's one of the reasons I put on all the weight. It's because I do like eating. It's one of the things we do a lot of. We spend a lot of money on restaurants, which is something I think we'll actually start doing more cooking and less eating out. We did find a nice restaurant recently, if you haven't been there before. What's the name of that one on the hill, on the roundabout? Do you know what the name is? El Paradiso. Yeah. So Paradiso isn't that the... yeah. So El Paradiso, which is paradise. Now, it looks to me like somewhere you would find on a French campsite. Not knocking it, because somebody may actually complain about what I just said, but you have like the main log cabin with a lot of glass windows, and then it's got a lot of cabins with the food and stuff on it, but you can actually go fishing there. They've got a rectangular or square fishing area, so you can go up there with the fishing rods and sit and have a cup of tea, eat at the restaurant, and they have a lot of entertainment and stuff on there. And the funny thing is, we had never noticed it before, because we noticed their giant Spanish flag when they put it up, but it just simply, we'd never actually been to the restaurant.
And it's always like full.
Yes, yeah, it's always full. Yeah.
Cars.
Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculously busy. I mean, but the seats, how much was the seating? 250, wasn't it?
Yeah, the covered one.
Yeah, the covered seating was at least 200 people.
There's another 2 main function areas. Like
yeah.
50 and another 60.
I would love to have that sort of setup. I'll tell you that now. If I can do 400 tables a day, I'll be happy. Yeah. So yes, but that one, if you're in the area, I'd recommend visiting it. It's a comida mediterránea. Oh, the sort of food we were doing is, ours was around burgers, hot dogs, and pizza. The reason being is we have a lot of restaurants in the area that are Tex-Mex, Indian, and Spanish, Chinese, and it's sort of we're trying to go down more the route of street food. Because there is other stuff. I mean, this is the discussion yesterday, wasn't it, about some of the stuff around the seafood and stuff, wasn't it? More the Philippine style food. And there's sort of discussion around that yesterday, because There's a restaurant we like in the Philippines, and funny enough, Carlos and his wife are the same. They recognise the same sort of food. So the point being is we were talking about this, and the thing is we do think there could be an interest on it, but the big problem we would have is that a lot of people may not like the Filipino taste. So it's one of those things where we've got to sit there and just try it, because the thing with street food is you already know there's a market for it. And there's other stuff that we could do with street food, because it's a bit like Alexander in Madrid. I'll share let me find Alexander. Oh. Yeah, I'll just see, Alexander's got a good place up in Madrid. Let me just get a picture of one of his restaurants. In fact, I can even send you the menu. You can have a look at it. Because this is the sort of thing, we sit there and we love food. Well, that's the easiest way of saying it. But Alexander's done really well in Madrid. I think he's got 16 restaurants there now. And it's predominantly on Asian food. But he spent a lot of time getting the menu right as well. And that's one of the things I want to say is, for us, if the menu's right, people will come anyway. And that's one of the things that I was trying to explain to somebody, that we're not interested in the tourist sort of market, in the sense of people are just looking for cheap stuff, because you can earn a lot more money by having better food and less customers if it's more focused, because otherwise you're in the same market as everybody else. And one of the problems you get here is you've got, for example, the Indian restaurants will do Tex-Mex, Spanish food, Indian food, and Italian food, and you end up with having a lot of stuff on the menu. Well, if you've got a lot of stuff on the menu, you're cooking a lot of stuff from frozen, because anyway you can have that amount of food. It means you're storing a lot of food, but I'd much rather do it fresh. So where we can, we'd look to do a lot of the fresh ingredients, a lot of the fresh produce, and making more higher end. But I'm not interested in making all the plate all pretty. It's about the taste of the food, and that's the bit I would want to focus on. But we know a lot of a lot of stuff we like, the sizzling sig and stuff like that. There's a market for it. It's very specific food though. But you can't sort of lead with that. You've got to get people into it, because it's an acquired taste until you tasted it. So yeah, so that's one of the things I would say. We're not going to rush into the restaurant side, but the burger stuff, we'd look at doing the burgers, the hot dogs, doing it all high end, well, mid-range, not high end. I'm not going to oversell it. At the end of the day, it's going to be good quality stuff, but I believe in quality with, quality for value, but not bargain basement. 100% less in more, just specialize in a few dishes. Yeah, exactly. Because otherwise you're competing against a lot of these restaurants that have been here for a long time doing the same stuff, and it's all, I'm trying not to knock a lot of these restaurants, but it's average. A lot of it is average at best. There is some good restaurants. Food Line's a very, very good restaurant. And they've done really well. And you can sell, because what happened there is the owner sold the restaurant to the chef. The chef's had a bit of a revamp in there, redid all the menu and stuff. And since she sort of took over, it's been busy all the time, all year round. You've got her on this side of the road. Then you've got, what's it? Summit Corner, isn't it? What's the other one opposite? New Corner. Yeah, New Corner has got a second restaurant there, and that's up for sale. maybe. Yeah, because they sort of put it up for sale, then it's not for sale, then it's up for sale. Because obviously they're trying to recoup some of the costs on it. But you'll find that New Corner is virtually empty, and Food Line, there's hardly any tables available. Yeah, good sandwiches is good. Yeah, I agree. I mean, a good panini, for example, works well. It's all about keeping it fresh and it tasting good. And one of the things that, I mean, as Connor W mentioned, 100% is more just specialized in a few dishes, is a lot of the quantities here are too big. I'd much rather have smaller quantities and higher end, because you wouldn't actually be taking that much away from the plate, because the product would be better, but the portions would actually be a size that people should be eating. And I'm not going down the healthy line. I mean, I sell burgers and hot dogs, but a lot of the time the food portions are too big. You'll find people take a lot of takeouts and things like that. And it's one of the things that, what's his name from Hell's Kitchen? What's his name? What's that? Yeah. Yeah, Gordon Ramsay will mention about that. I've heard him mention about it when he's doing some of those kitchen restaurant saves where, you know, the portions are too big, because he's saying just wasting money because people are taking away as much as they're eating. And so the point is, I'd much rather have a smaller product but a higher end. And it's one of the reasons people like the burgers, because the burgers were not like big fat ones with a big bun. It's more a case of we try to get they're flatter but wider, and then the buns are a bit narrow. It makes it easier to eat, but also the sauce wasn't going all over you. We put a bit of effort into making sure everything was proportional. Yeah, see, you got me onto food, you see. I get a bit boring when I start talking about food. But yeah, the burgers, I like doing good burgers. And I do like cooking when I can, but the kitchen is April's domain most of the time. Yeah, Stuart, nice presentation. That's it. It's presentation's key to it. Yeah, exactly, Glenn Roberts. Big menus result in stocking frozen food in many restaurants. Agree. My personal view, and this is the thing for my own type of restaurant, for us, I would be looking where we would have a high turnover of food and not have that much stock, in the sense that we could even get sold out some days because we don't carry that amount, you know, a large amount of stock, because we limit the amount we would be carrying. Not because we couldn't afford to have a freezer full, but simply we don't need that amount of food. I mean, when I used to do, what was it, the Wimpy, I think a burger order, we used to order about £10,000 worth of burgers at a time, just for one restaurant. We wouldn't be ordering that sort of quantity, but you got to understand, even then, people used to like the Wimpy restaurants because it was cooked fresh, which is another thing we do. We don't have anything sat on a hot plate. We don't have anything that's been sat there all afternoon. We don't do it. Everything's done as and when you come in and say, I want that. That's the way I want the restaurant to work, because I think it's important that people taste the difference. It's a bit like the organic stuff, because I was trying to get the organics for the store, for the burgers and stuff. But one of the problems with the farm, the owners we know, they said they haven't got enough produce for us, because basically we take pretty much everything they've got, but they've got their own greengrocer store. So we started taking it as a restaurant. They would have no food left, you know, for their own store. But the thing is, when you taste the organic tomatoes and stuff, there's a massive difference in taste. And I'm not, you know, somebody may go, oh, that's not true. I would say just try it, because you can taste the difference. Because if you take a tomato, for example, a tomato today has been modified to have a thicker skin, so it doesn't get damaged in transport. Because if you look at an older tomato, you'll find it's quite heavy, but the skin's a lot more easy to damage. You can get bruised very easy. You can get damaged very easy. You'll find that the tomatoes today are thicker skinned and sometimes even gassed, because they put gas on them to turn them from green to red. so that the shop fresh for tomorrow. They do it on purpose. It's done in massive warehouse type production, and it's that sort of stuff that a lot of people don't even know happens, but it does. And this is why when you start looking at how food is produced for the mass market, it is very different from the quality side, because those tomatoes that you see in the supermarket, all very uniform, similar sizes, etc. Where if you go organic, you can have a tomato this big and the next one's half its size and stuff. But the taste on them is absolutely amazing compared to the ones that are mass produced. And I've got nothing against mass production. It's just that I'm saying the markets are very different. They're just completely different types of food. Many bars and smaller restaurants in Spain seem to survive from morning coffee and serving menu of the day. What do you think about that? Funny enough, somebody was mentioning about that last week, about a lot of the Spanish that come here on holiday, they look for the menu of the day. And I agree, a lot of them can survive on it. This is one of the explanations I was having with the guy that owns the restaurant today, is a lot of these places can survive as a mom and pop store, but not with anybody wanting an extra cut. There's simply not enough in it. It's a bit like Senor Jose that's over here. He owns the Cascada. You'll see he works there on his own most of the time. Because working on his own, it's viable. As soon as you start having rents and large expenses, it's dead in the water, because it can't produce enough to keep the place ticking over. Now, would I be happy with having that sort of setup? Yeah, I would. Because as long as my bills are paid, I don't really care. I'm chilled out. For me, life in Spain is about enjoying it. So having a little restaurant and just sitting there, meeting people every day, chatting with them, how the holiday's going, and meeting your regular customers, and just going through daily life with them, I like that. That's part of life. And it's something I would do if the opportunity arose. As Andre just said, it's true. Yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of Spanish will go for menu of the day, and they'll go for the coffees in the morning. A lot of the people I know retired here will go for a coffee in the morning. I go for a coffee in the morning to the beach. This is one of the things I would say about Food Line is every day you will find a load of people sat there all the way through the year. Even in the winter time, there'll be people sat there. What you will find also, though, is the staff numbers drop. You'll see that, this is the thing, if you want to set a restaurant up here, you've got to come at different times of the year, and you'll see a lot of restaurants go onto a skeleton staff during the winter. You'll find 1 or 2 people there where normally there's 5 or 7. And because during the winter, they're not selling much. But one of the things that I do recognize, there is other markets that are fairly untapped here on the coast, which I'm not going into at the moment because something we're working on. But there is definitely still some market availability there. I think you've just got to think out of the box a lot of the time. There's a lot of stuff that you've got to look at other avenues. One of the big problems I have here on the coast is I think a lot of the rents are too high. A lot of the decent locations are at least €1,000 a month rent. But I was looking at Tweety's fish and chip shops up for sale. Now, Tweety's fish and chip shops on the first floor. A bit saddened that the place up for sale, because I was hoping they would have sort of got it together there. Because their food was all right. They just couldn't cope when it was busy. Because obviously people are in the UK with a fish and chip shop, you don't generally have people sitting outside, but in Spain you do. So you could have I don't know how many tables I've got, 40, 60 seating, plus people coming in for takeaways and stuff, and they were struggling. But could they do something different there? That's why I was sort of thinking, I don't know what the rent is, but I assume it's quite high, because that was, when I was there, it was jam-packed. Okay, Johnny Fanta, a good chipper, the lady running it died. There you go, you know more than I do on it. That's what I'm saying, because I went there myself and I thought it was all right. It was just struggling with the amount of customers it had. Because outside there's like a barrel and it was just stacked with all the plates. And I'm like, that's right outside the front door of the restaurant. But is it something that could be dealt with? Because, you could say, well, they're not doing their job properly, but it could be the dishwasher's already full. It could be the fact that the restaurant isn't big enough for the amount of customers it's getting. But yeah, because it's a restaurant that we went to and the food was good. It was just a case of it just seemed excessively busy. And then I see it up for sale. Yeah, that's it. It had a good reputation and the food was dead in a nice location. Yeah. The food there was good. The location, because it's got a bar next door to it, the food was good. Yeah. There's got a bar next door to it as well, so it has quiz nights as well, which also helps them because once the bar's full, they start going around the corner. But yeah, there's a prime example of a business that would be a very good one to buy, but I do not recommend starting a fish and chip business if you've never done a fish and chip business before. It's one of those things. Yeah, Andre, they should have raised the prices a bit. Yeah, because if you raise the prices a bit as well, that's another thing that can keep the profits up and reduce the number you're cooking. But the point is, it was something I was expecting. I was surprised to see it up for sale because it was doing so well. But as Johnny Fanta said, the owner died, so there's not a lot you can do about that. But that's a restaurant. If you've got some background in fish and chips, that's one worth having a look at. But yeah, a lot of the other ones you will see the rents are about €1,000 a month. Some of them are even more. In La Mata, there's where the high rises are. There's like a old fruit and veg sort of concrete building where there's a chilled room on one side and then like a lockup on the other. Well, that one, when I asked them, they wanted €1,250 a month rent. Now, bearing in mind, it's literally a shell. That's just crazy. But I'm not sure if they owned the land where they built the high rises. So, because some of the things I've been hearing, I haven't looked into the tax incentives of doing it, but there seems to be they write off something for tax with empty businesses or something. There's a reason that they don't actually want some of these places populated. There's a conversation yesterday, it was an interesting one as well, relating to why some of the places get concreted up on the front. There's some weird stuff that goes on with legislation and stuff and neighbours, and just be aware of that when buying a business in Spain. They can be your worst nightmare can often be the people that live above it and around it, because it's all got to go through these little committees sometimes, and they can block you trying to open your business after you did all the work, and then they just block it because they can. So yeah, that's one of the things I will say. Be careful around businesses, because it can be a bit of a pig sometimes to try and get some of these places open. Because it could have been viable for a long time, and then suddenly there's something expired or something's changed, and then you go try and get it through your local what do you call it, housing association or whatever it is, and then they keep blocking you from being able to get the right permits and things just because they can. It's a bit like over here. The worst problem that restaurant has is some of its neighbours. Not the business owners, but the ones that live above it, because they like to go down to the plaza and do their dancing and listening to music and stuff there, but they don't want to hear it where they live. And this isn't just the area that suffers with that. It's not the first time I've heard of that type of problem. So be careful. Any other questions, guys? I'll tell you what, I'm going to add the Facebook group as well when I've just thought about it. Now, this group is very easy to find somebody that wants to learn English. You will have to put a bit of effort in as well, because obviously if they're going to teach you their English, but it's free. There's a lot of people in there that actually want to help you speak English, and they've got a lot of patience and time. So it's a bit like the woman this from Mexico that's teaching me, Jan. Her English is good. We're actually doing not the verb to be, but we're doing tenses today. But at the same time, she's sort of going over some more basic stuff with me, because her English level is a higher level than my Spanish level at the moment, because I've got a lot of vocabulary, but I need to spend a bit more time on sentence structure and the sounds and things like that. But the good thing is it's a motivational builder, because if you've got somebody that's going to talk to you at 7 o'clock at night and go, right, this is your Spanish lesson, and you're doing it every Wednesday, every Thursday, whatever, you've committed to it because somebody's there. It's not like you're sitting there with an app and go, you know what, football's on, just throwing it to the side or whatever. You're actually having to commit to doing it. And that's one of the things I will say. That's one of the things I like about working with other people, but also because she's a native Spanish speaker, her pronunciation's perfect. So it helps me with my Spanish, because it's like mama, wasn't it? Mama and mama. It's the same, yeah. Because one would be like mother and the other one is breast. So depending how you say it, it makes a big difference on what you're actually saying to somebody. Victor Garcia, hello, Matt. How do you forecast the housing market in Spain in the upcoming years? Thank you. I think the market's going to sit fairly buoyant. There's a lot of people saying that it will collapse. I think it's just going to sit there. I don't think the banks have been lending the way they were before. So people that were going to take a hit have took a hit. And going forward, I think it's just going to just sort of move across, because they keep constructing. It's one of the frustrating things, because if they stop constructing, they would actually increase the housing market, because the demand would then outweigh the supply. But instead, they keep building more and more and more, and then going over some of the failed development projects and building those as well. So it keeps the prices down. So I would say it's just going to continue. Andre, you need to work with Spaniards for a month and call it sorted. Yes, I can guarantee if I work with Spaniards for a month, I'd be speaking a lot more Spanish. I'm not sure, if it's with the construction guys, it might be a colorful language in the use of the words, but yeah, I really need to get past that initial stage. I mean, like I said, the vocab's there. It's just the sentence structures and that now. Once I get to a certain point, it'll just suddenly go bang, and then it'll just grow very, very fast. But I think that's part of languages. I think it's a bit like most things. It's like computer programming. You can spend a lot of time wondering why something's like this and that, and then suddenly it just goes bang, and then away you go. Oh, I did it like that. Yeah, there's a few people I know have done exactly like that. Igor, as a prime example, Igor, when he first come here, was mainly working with people from Russia and Ukraine. So his Spanish didn't really progress. But then after 4 years, he started to do his own thing and spent more time around Spaniards, etc. And now he speaks, I don't know how many languages he speaks. I mean, he's Spanish, he's fluent in Spanish, but he speaks Norwegian and all sorts, because a bit of French, bit of everything. Yeah, it's very easy to do when you spend time around people. One of the problems I get here is because we're in a tourist trap, we get a lot of people come here for holidays and they're just doing the family thing. We don't really have a social bar type thing here. I suppose there might be one up the other end of the town, but there's nothing this end. But yeah, I agree with it. I mean, spend a bit of time around a few Spaniards, it wouldn't take long at all. Glyn Roberts, I'm cooking my Spanish omelette now, Matt. Thanks for the good quality video. You're welcome, and I appreciate your thoughts on the video as well. All right, guys, I'm going to head off now. I might actually have a shave. I'm looking. Oh, I've got to go for a walk. My wife's telling me. Nice chatting, guys. And if you have any questions, please leave them below and I'll answer them. There's been a few people asking about the website as well. I'll just put the website up here on the. Okay, if I can press the right buttons. Torrevieja services. Because it's not just the construction stuff that we do on there as well. There's been a few people ask me relating to completely different things. But one of the things you can do is WhatsApp me on the bottom right. One of the things I do recommend is actually WhatsApp chat me. Don't call me because I don't answer the phone 90% of the time unless it's urgent. The reason being is otherwise I get too many calls. So my phone is often on silent. So if you put a message there, I'll get to it in a couple of minutes because it pings me on the laptop. But anyway, really nice chatting to you lot. Enjoy your day. Hope you're all having a good day as well. And thanks for watching. Hasta luego.